Power scaling, 9 types of multiverses. Recently, I made a poll for what my next video would be, and a majority of you asked for a Beyond Boundless video. I then asked what type of Beyond Boundless video, and initially the winning vote was that of the 9 types of multiverses made by Brane. However, it has recently changed so that the Marvel Realities is currently in the lead, but I'm doing this video first because initially it did have the most votes. I shall do the Marvel Reality video afterwards. For this video, it will be a bit similar to my Beyond Boundless video for the Type 4 multiverse, back when I was doing Tegmark's 4 types of multiverses in this video. However, in that video, I was doing too much scientific analysis, which many people in the comment section clearly did not understand. So for this video, I'll be focusing far more on how it applies power scaling wise than the actual mechanics of the multiverses themselves. I will leave links to everything in the description, and I will show any important details, but if there's any questions you need, comment down below. Level 1, Quilted Multiverse. The Quilted Multiverse is the smallest multiverse model that I'll be doing in this video. I call it Level 1, referring to the Type 1 multiverse in Tegmark's original scale. This multiverse is every single possible arrangement of every possible thing in the universe based on current physics. Despite in the original article written by Brane saying that it is infinite over a dozen times, the actual conclusion is it is most likely finite. However, despite being finite, it is still extremely large. In his estimate, he said the size of the universe would be 10 to the 10 to the 110 meters wide. The number of 10 to the 10 to the 110 is such a large number that it is quite difficult to actually give it an analogy. So I'll have to use a smaller example to give an analogy. A normal deck of cards has 52 cards, which is not a very big number. I'm pretty sure everyone watching this video can count past 52. However, the number of combinations of a deck of 52 cards is so large I'm not going to pronounce it. Here it is right here. It is called 52 factorial. As an analogy for how big 52 factorial is, this number is so large that if we had a trillion galaxies, where in each galaxy was a trillion worlds, where each world had 100 billion people, and then since the dawn of time, all they were doing was shuffling a deck of cards and trying to get every combination, and they did this for 13 billion years, they wouldn't even come close to doing 1% of the combinations. In fact, when you compare the numbers right here, you can actually see they are barely doing half a quadrillionth of the number of combinations. And that is with a deck of 52 cards. So the number of possibilities, even though it is finite, is quite incredible. So now, imagine instead of 52 cards of a deck of cards, we have every single particle in the entire observable universe. The number of combinations would be absolutely incredible, and that is why 10 to the 10 to the 100 is an absolutely insane quantity. In terms of power scaling, this would only be a 3A construct. Being that it is not infinite, as clearly stated, and the number of possibilities is finite, it cannot be high 3A. However, it should be so large that it should be much larger than any other 3A construct that you can think of in a general sense. Level 1.5, the Inflationary Multiverse. The Inflationary Multiverse is the second smallest multiverse model there is. I'm calling level 1.5 for a particular reason that you'll find out in just a moment. Remember that in Tegmark's original 4 types of multiverses, a level 1 multiverse was a finite size multiverse model. The Inflationary Multiverse model is not finite. In fact, Brane explains it very well. The inflationary model models each universe as a bubble or an energy curve, to put it simply. Then we can say that these curves or bubbles are infinite in size, to the point where they could quite easily hold the entire Quilt multiverse in every single bubble. We then say that the number of these bubbles are in fact infinite. Taking this a step further, we can then look at the spaces between the bubbles. Now, in modeling, they say that the space between models is finite. However, because of how the inflation works for the inflationary multiverse, there are vastly different concepts of time for each bubble. This is so extreme, in fact, that despite the physical model trying to say that the gaps are finite, to an observer who could observe the infinite size of each bubble, they would think the outside is infinitely greater, so that the inside looks finite by comparison. In power scaling terms, we would say that each bubble is high 3A or high universal, as it is an infinitely sized universe. We then say the gaps between each universe must be a universal plus structure having different spacetimes. We then say the totality of the infinite number of universes with this different spacetimes would make the entire inflationary multiverse 2A structure in power scaling, which is multiversal plus. However, this is a limitation. A type 2 multiverse in Tegmark's 4 types of multiverses uses higher dimensions. The inflationary multiverse does not. So while it is above a level 1 multiverse, which is finite, it is below a level 2 multiverse that uses higher dimensions. Therefore, I called it a level 1.5 as it slots between the two different levels. Before I move on to level 2, I think I should talk about the issues I had with Tegmark's level 2 multiverses. The reason why I had these issues is because Tegmark's example as a level 2 multiverse, which he set in stone, was that of string theory, which string theory has 10 to 11 dimensional structure depending on which version of string theory you use, or how you look at it. My problem with this is the jump from type 1 to type 2 should be adding higher dimensions, which he does claim himself. The problem with it, obviously, is that going from 3-dimensional all the way up to 10-dimensional is more than just adding finite dimensions, more than double the dimensionality. So I think that it's a bit exaggerated to say that we need this many dimensions to move up to a level 2 multiverse. So in a moment when I talk about level 2 multiverses, it's just ones that include higher dimensions. Level 2, Brane Multiverse. This model of the multiverse is level 2, as I just said. The Brane Multiverse is stated to be at least 5th-dimensional model of the multiverse. While I could go into detail of its derivation, I don't think we need to do that since it's literally telling us its dimensionality. In power scaling, a 5th-dimensional multiverse would be either high multiversal plus or low complex multiversal, depending on the tiering system you are using. The one I'll be using here will just say that it is low complex multiversal. I feel like it makes a better distinction. One thing to note is, like I said, it is at least 5th dimensional. The actual formula to show its dimensionality uses a placeholder as n, where this n could be any integer greater than 0. So it could be more than 5th dimensional, but as they've got no proof to say more, they just limit it to a 5th dimensional model. Now for our next level 2 multiverse, we have the Cyclic Multiverse. By its own name, how it actually works, the Cyclic Multiverse, is that it is a multiverse that works in a cycle. A little bit deceiving because the Brane Multiverse, one that it is built off, also works in a cycle. However, what is meant by this is the Brane Multiverse is meant to expand and contract all the matter in it in a cycle within the brain. However, here, this multiverse cycle says the brains themselves can expand and contract and even collide with one another to even produce parallel worlds. This is stated, and here's some little things to show it. In terms of scaling, so we're talking about the power scaling here, how it compares with the Brane Multiverse, really there should just be more of these universes than there are of the Brane Multiverse. So it is a slightly bigger model, and would still be qualified, I guess, in the same dimensionality. There isn't really a clear difference. So both should be low complex multiversal. Now for the level 2 multiverse that you all should be expecting, the Landscape Multiverse. If you wonder why you're expecting it, this is why. The level 2 multiverse, the Landscape Multiverse, is the merging of two other multiverse models. The first one we've already talked about in this video, and that was the level 1.5 Inflationary Model Universe. However, the secondary one is probably the most famous level 2 multiverse structure, and that is string theory. Merging these two different ideas together, you have the dimensionality of string theory, which is 10 to 11 dimensional again, depending on how you think of it, as well as it has a large number of different universes associated. And these different universes range from 10 to the 500 different universes, all up to 10 up to 270,000 different universes, with their dimensionality being independent for each one of them. This means that in terms of power scaling, we say this is a high complex multiverse, with there being at least 10 to the 500 universes, or 10 to the 270,000 universes, somewhere along the line. Now, one thing you may have noticed in this video is a lack of details for the level 2 multiverses that I've talked about. I've mostly been talking about the conclusions of what these models say rather than the actual building structure to how they're made. The reason why this is because when I did my Type 4 multiverse video on Tegmark's 4 multiverses, I noticed that saying more details actually confused a lot of people. So I'm trying to narrow things down and make it simpler, and thus I'm just saying the conclusions. One thing I will say, this is a detail that is important, because of how the Cyclic and Brane multiverse models both involve higher dimensions, they often get mixed with string theory to make alternative models and then are misnamed because of such. So if you see some that say there are higher dimensions, that's why. The ones I'm referring to will be linked in the description, especially the Brane 5th dimensional one, because that is probably the more interesting one of the lot. Now we're up to one of the more popular multiverses, that being the level 3 quantum multiverse, sometimes called the level 3 many worlds theory multiverse. The quantum multiverse, as what I will be calling it, is a mixture of two different multiverse models, or concepts. The first one is the general idea of just a level 2 multiverse including higher dimensions. The second of which is the many worlds theory. The many worlds theory having all possibilities, every quantum moment, and every quantum possibility of every quantum moment. That's why I'd call it the quantum multiverse. But it means that there is an infinitely many different universes of infinitely many possibilities, all branching out from each other. And the branches do include the idea of dimensionality, so there are infinite different dimensions or different dimensional levels from 0-dimensional all up to infinite dimensional. In power scaling, we call this high hyperversal. Now, one thing I would like to point out is because this model of multiverse is actually very much misused in the power scaling community. The first thing people misuse it for is just because a multiverse or a universe or a fictional franchise has something of quantum mechanics does not mean it has a multiverse that is a quantum multiverse. Quantum mechanics cover a vast array of things often used for just properties of light in supercomputers. It doesn't prove this multiverse exists in it. The second one is having quantum mechanics in a multiverse, which is similar to what I just said but slightly different, does not make it the level 3 multiverse. The reason being, string theory and all level 2 multiverse theories are actually built on quantum mechanics as well. They use it to explain gravity to then go forward and explain their multiverse theories. Because of this, just saying you have a quantum multiverse is either a name fallacy because you're trying to appeal to the name of this level 3 multiverse, or it is just a misuse of the term of trying to call it the quantum multiverse of level 3 when it's actually a quantum multiverse model that is a level 2 multiverse. The third thing is the many worlds theory. The many worlds theory is in combination with quantum mechanics and higher dimensionality to make this model. Many world theory in its own does not have higher dimensions. All it has is the infinite possibilities of every moment based on different possibilities that can happen. It does not have higher dimensions. So on its own, many world theory is not the same as a level 3 quantum multiverse. In essence, for people who are power scaling, and more specifically for people who try and use it for power scaling, any scaling that uses a quantum level 3 multiverse in power scaling should also have the evidence to prove it is high hyperversal, and you should not need to use the evidence of it being a quantum 3 multiverse as evidence for it being high hyperversal. Level 3.5 Holographic Multiverse. I would like to call this a level 4 multiverse model, however, as the level 4 models have something very distinct different to build off that is far greater, I think level 3.5 is probably the best we can go here. First, what should be known from the holographic multiverse is that it claims everything we know, as we can use for a multiverse model, should be described as a hologram. This, in the paper made by Brane in his actual one, is directly stated to be related to Plato's cave. Not saying that it contains Platonic concepts, but it works in a very similar fashion. And in fact, the original paper had the exact same analogy. Since my most popular power scaling video I have is my Platonic coordinates are altiversal video, you should all know where this is going. The holographic multiverse is altiversal. The reason for such is that the holographic multiverse has all realities we know it contained to it as if it is a two-dimensional screen. Think of it much like a video game being able to contain all of the game's story. And to explain why that is impressive, It should be able to contain any of the previous models, because they are part of the reality that is part of the hologram. We use reality to explain any of the previous models, but we cannot use reality to explain this, except saying that it's just something beyond reality, or external from reality. In fact, what we can say is that on this 2D hologram can have a one-dimensional dot, for example. It could have a universe. It could have the string theory multiverse, the Brane multiverse. It could have the level 3 high hyperverse or quantum multiverse. And they all are viewed as equal. A one-dimensional dot inside the hologram is no better than the level 3 high hyperverse or quantum multiverse. The reason being is they are all effectively a 2D hologram, or if we use the Platonic concept version, a non-existent reality compared to what is the actual reality. If we were to explain this a little bit further, this doesn't use the idea of concepts like character stacks and profiles, outerversal definition. Instead, what it does is it uses external reality hypothesis, a more generalized form of what an outerversal definition should be. External reality hypothesis in a general term is just to be unbound by everything that can be currently explained in reality. So that is why it is beyond all dimensions, beyond any concept dimensionality, any sort of stacking you can imagine. The holographic multiverse should be beyond that. In my older video, going over Tegmark's 4 types of multiverses, and I had my type 4 multiverse, a common comment I had, or referral question from something someone else heard, was that people thought the type 4 multiverse had to be limited below outerversal. They didn't quite understand the external reality hypothesis, nor did they understand the fact that in the very paper Tegmark had made, he had an analogy saying it is built higher than that of Plato's caves, and external reality hypothesis branching off as a single axiom. To explain why I'm saying this up here, it is quite simply because if they had in fact looked at a level 4 multiverse or anything even less than that, the level 3.5 we just went over, they would very clearly know the fact that it would scale easily to outerversal and in fact much higher. Level 4, Simulated Multiverse and Ultimate Ensemblement. For these final multiverse models, it is important to look at them both separately and at the same time. I shall start off doing them separately, starting with the simulated multiverse. When talking about the simulated multiverse, the best way I have found to actually describe it is to explain its difference to the holographic multiverse. Previously, we said that the holographic multiverse was outerversal in terms of power scaling. This was because it views all of reality as a hologram, while its external reality, being beyond all that in a way that cannot be reached, would be then outerversal via power scaling. What I did not say is what would be outside the hologram. If we used an analogy like what Plato has, we would say that the hologram would then be all reality, and what's outside would be its Platonic concepts. Now, for the simulated multiverse, this is completely different. Instead of being some sort of concepts or abstract thing, the simulated multiverse is just saying there is an advanced civilization that's so intelligent, technology in the future to an extreme amount, all that type of stuff, to the point where they can make their own multiverse and simulate it, to the point where everything in there seems like a reality. This is the key difference. If a simulation can simulate a multiverse, then they can make it as complex as they want. Furthermore, there is nothing stopping even that simulation that can simulate a multiverse is not already part of another simulation. And this can go on non-stop because there's no limit to the number of times this can happen. The true maximum simulation depth is just the maximum of what you can imagine what is computably possible, given every variable of which the holographic multiverse should have, which includes external reality hypothesis, stacking dimensions, all those ideas. So it's as computably possible. For the level 4 ultimate ensemblement model of the multiverse, which is just a renaming for Tegmark's type 4 multiverse, we treat everything we have said similar to what the simulation multiverse had, but we treat it all not as a variable in a simulation, but instead as a mathematical axiom. An axiom being the lines of just a line of logic, so some reasoning. But then we have to realize that the ultimate ensemblement doesn't just use everything we've said before, because If we were to think about the multiverse that we had before, the Type 3 multiverse, the Holographic multiverse, or even the simulated multiverse, they all have a finite number of axioms. The ultimate ensemblement should have infinite axioms. Now I would like to power scale the ultimate ensemblement and the simulation multiverse. However, before I power scale it, I think it would be useful for me to first just make something up tiering wise. Starting off with stealing something from character stats and profile, their biggest tier is extraversal. Extraversal is a very powerful tier. What they do is they use the idea similar to the holographic multiverse. We have the hologram be anything in reality, could be dimensions, could be human level, could be anything. And then you have your outerversal structure being much further, and you say that gap is a numerical 1. Then extraversal allows you to go all the way up to infinity on that scale. The difference between each individual number, so going from 1 to 2, is such a jump that you cannot reach the second level of extraversal by stacking anything from before. So infinite layers of outerversal cannot reach the number 2 level of extraversal, and so on, all the way up to the infinite level. That is very impressive, and is much higher than what Versus Battle Wiki has. However, Versus Battle Wiki does have some advantage, and that is their tiering system has more layers. For example, if we talk about their outerversal, they don't use an external reality hypothesis, they use the alephes from different levels of infinity back in Cantor's original work. These alephes go in higher and higher levels of infinity, and they cap at what is called an inaccessible cardinal. An inaccessible cardinal is so many layers past the alephes that it is unreachable, and it technically would be an external reality by comparison, but is done so by layers. And then what we can say is the difference between the alephes and the inaccessible cardinal was the outerversal to high outerversal, and Boundless uses that gap, repeats it again to create the Boundless tier. So whatever the gap is from aleph to an inaccessible cardinal, stack that on top of an inaccessible cardinal and you will get Boundless. So let's mix these two ideas together. Let's mix the beyond inaccessible cardinal number of layers that is Boundless with the insane jump in tiers for every numerical value that extraversal has. So it's, in a way, you could call it a boundless number of layers into extraversal. That's just a name that I can come up with. Now, while that is an absolutely insane tier, it is nowhere near the likes of a simulated multiverse at its very peak, or the ultimate ensemblement. First, let's show it quite simply with the Type 4 multiverse, the ultimate ensemblement. You see, when we are talking about the axioms that the Type 4 multiverse ultimate ensemblement has, remember it can have any of the previous axioms that the previous multiverse models has, and even says so in Tegmark's original paper. This means it scales with the same Plato-like scale from each individual group mathematically as the extraversal scale does, so we can equivalate them mathematically. Even though we could actually say in the ultimate ensemblement you could make these layers even bigger, but for now let's not go over that. If we do, then the number of layers we took from Versus Battle Wiki to get to just high outerversal was that of an inaccessible cardinal. Now to get to the next level, they didn't say its name, they just said they would repeat in the process. Technically speaking, this is just a higher level into the inaccessible cardinals. However, if you look at the large cardinal tree, the next level up, if its proper name, would be the weakly compact cardinal. Now, by comparison, the Type 4 multiverse, ultimate ensemblement, should be anywhere at the top 3 up there, where it says huge, super huge, and 10-13. Not very creative names, honestly, but that's where that scale would be. And if you look at how far apart they are, you sort of get the idea that actually, yes, the Type 4 multiverse, ultimate ensemblement, is far beyond even that mash of tiers that I just come up with. For the simulated multiverse, it is far more tricky. In reality, we do not have computers with infinite memory. We don't have computers that can finish really anything at infinity. In the magical world of theoretical mathematics, we can, but we cannot in computing. So, for an appropriate analogy to compare extraversal, boundless into extraversal, and all that with the simulation multiverse and the ultimate ensemblement, we need to actually use a finite system. The finite system I'll be using is that of the Googology website. How this will work is we can actually use the complexity of a system to define its level of infinity, even though it is finite. For example, if we plugged in the variable or the amount infinity into a linear omega level function, That will be smaller than if we plugged it into a quadratic omega level function. The reason why this works is because all of these methods below are equivalent to ordinal arithmetic, which we can use to go past infinity. We cannot use this for class 0, class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5, or the tetration level. The first one that is comparable to ordinal arithmetic is the up arrow notation level. With this, we can then say the minimum level, because extraversal only goes up to infinity, would therefore be at the up arrow notation level. The mixed tier of boundless into extraversal is actually 3 levels better, reaching the polynomial omega level. The ultimate ensemblement, to no surprise, is right at the bottom with the uncomputable numbers. And then, as you may suspect, the simulation multiverse will be at the higher computable level. Before I end off this video, I actually want to just address the problems this video has. The main problem this video has is the colloquialism that I've used in the video. In my previous video going over the Type 4 multiverse, I was 50-50 on trying to make it mathematically pleasing, going over the accuracy of the definitions and all of that. And when I mixed that in with power scaling, it caused a lot of confusion. So in this video, I've completely taken out that bit and I'm just trying to say the bits of power scaling. I'm dictating the conclusion. Because of such, this will probably cause some problems. It's just as many problems as the previous video. I don't know if you guys prefer this style or not. Please give me feedback in the comment section down below if you prefer me more explaining something through essentially a dictatorship of what it should be rather than an explanation. And with that, thank you all for watching this video. This video may have been surprising for some of you. After all, this video was meant to be one of the options in the current poll for the next Beyond Boundless video, but the winner of the current poll looks like the Multiple Realities. The reason why this video was made before that one is quite simply that I started making this video back when it was actually the #1 option in the poll. It then just so happens that as I've been making it, Multiple Realities have taken over. So for those of you who are really wanting to see the Multiple Realities video, don't worry, that video will be made. It will be the next Beyond Boundless video scheduled to be made. If you like my Beyond Boundless content, do check out my Beyond Boundless playlist. Also comment down below any other Beyond Boundless or non-Beyond Boundless videos you'd like to see in the future. In the description of this video, you'll see several other content creators you may like. Check them all out. They post more regularly than me, and you might like them. Hope you all have a good day. Thank you for watching.